In the build-up to the new season of Doctor Who, I'm taking a look back at every episode from Season 1 and re-reviewing them all after a year of dwelling. Spoilers ahead for the whole series. Episode 3, Boom, by Steven Moffat. The first non-showrunner episode to be written for Doctor Who since 2020. And it was written by an old showrunner. But quite frankly, who cares? For the record, Chris Chibnall wrote or co-wrote every episode of Flux and then all the specials, so technically, yeah, 2020 was the last episode not written, or not partly written, by a showrunner. I've said this for a long time, personally, not on the internet, and I stand by this. I think Steven Moffat is one of the best screenwriters ever, not just within Doctor Who, so bringing him back to the show for one-off episodes in the new era was a stroke of genius. His solo stories in the original Russell T Davies run were almost always the best of the series, so it was no surprise that he was asked back to run the show after Russell left. But that's not for now, that's another video. What's important here is, was Steven Moffat's new episode good? Did Boom live up to the hype of Moffat's earlier work? Yeah, of course it did. Alright, I'm going to say this now because, I just need to. I don't think this is a particularly hot take, but Boom is the best episode of the series. It's wonderful. I'd go as far as to say it's the best episode since 2015, but I haven't rewatched Season 10 in a while, so I would need to go back and do that again to really say that and mean it. Certainly it is the best episode since Capaldi left, and that's not even a dig at Chris Chibnall's writing, or Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor or anything like that. I have my opinions on the show at that time, but really this is meant as a compliment to Boom, more than anything. It really oozes the Steven Moffat style of writing from the very first second, being introduced to some brand new one-off characters to help establish the situation. While a common writing trope, it's a very Moffat thing to do. That's not to say he's just doing the same thing he always does, but it felt right off the bat like I was watching my favourite show again. Like it was another episode from 2011, but in the best way. The religious clerics are back fighting a war, and the episode treats this with such disgust and cynicism. In fact, I think this may even be Steven Moffat's most cynical episode. And that's saying something. At the very least, it's his most angry and unsubtle episode. Again, it's no bad thing though. I loved every second of this. In fact, it's hard to know where to start, really. Obviously the setup and premise is golden. The Doctor stands on a landmine and has to keep calm so he doesn't set it off. A child and a soldier show up on the battlefield. There's a robotic ambulance that kills you if you're a little bit too injured. It's just a brilliant idea. Anyway, the Doctor. Oh my god, here he is. I mentioned in the previous video about the Devil's Cord that the Doctor wasn't quite fully there yet, but he would be soon. Well, this is it. This episode is led by and carried by Ncuti Gatwa. Not carried in the sense that the episode was lacking in other ways, just that if you remove everything else from the episode, you are left with 45 minutes of insanely compelling performances, and, that's amazing. He utterly shines as the Doctor in Boom, and gives us an idea of just who he is. He's angry, he's cynical, he's excitable, he's a force to be reckoned with. He's the Doctor, but he's absolutely now his own take on the Doctor, and that's important here. It's wonderful, and it cannot be understated what a powerhouse of a performance he pulled out of the hat in every single scene here. Standing on the landmine, trying to keep calm, getting angry at Ruby, scared at the mine, heartbroken at Ruby getting shot, which we're coming back to, disgusted at the church, incredible range. He went from being one of those guys that plays the Doctor sometimes to the Doctor, within like a matter of minutes. And it's not just from the acting, he had such wonderful lines in this episode. He was characterised so well as an alien in this one, for what I feel to be the first time in this regeneration. Knowing exactly the weight of the dead body just from seeing Ruby catch it was such an alien moment that I always felt Moffat was the only one capable of pulling off. The Doctor's always been a bit quirky, but there's a certain out-of-this-world element that Moffat injects into the Doctor, and that was on full display here, I think. Anyway, this episode didn't just star Ncuti Gatwa. By some divine intervention, this episode managed to host a powerful performance from both the Doctor and Ruby. Millie Gibson is so great in this one, even if she is dead for half of it. And the strong-willed, Doctor-defying actions she takes in this episode cement her for me as a real TARDIS traveller. Where the Doctor can undermine anyone and talk his way out of anything, I feel like Boom showed us that he met his match. Ruby is not someone to be underestimated. As a character, this episode was great for her. A wonderful display of who she is, but also some nice furthering of the overarching plot, hinting that she may never have a next of kin. Hell, they even killed her in this episode, which was fantastic. The fake-out death is a tricky narrative to take, because it can easily be seen as cheap, and this is going to sound like I think everything Steven Moffat does is amazing, but he's always been good at taking these big risks and ensuring they work. He doesn't pull a fake-out death with a random Deus Ex Machina at the end. He'll do that after already establishing ultra-powerful ambulances capable of healing her. But he does that in such a way that we don't know for sure that that's what's going to happen, you know? These ambulances are a danger for the most part, but just their presence alone means that this inevitable saving of Ruby isn't contrived, it isn't cheap, it's earned. The reviving of Ruby comes almost as a byproduct of saving the day, and that synergy of plot elements is something I've missed so much from Doctor Who. It's somehow complicated and held together like a spider's web while simultaneously being a remarkably straightforward bottle episode. And I really just want to appreciate how effortlessly it seems Stephen Moffat is able to create such a story. It's incredible. Anyway, that's what happens in the episode. What about the themes of the story? You know how I said it was cynical? Well, holy shit. This episode deals with capitalism, faith, and AI, and it doesn't even pretend to be subtle. I love it for that. In a world where AI is taking over and corporations are swiftly destroying everything that matters in the world, it's refreshing to see such a blunt, in-your-face narrative about why that sucks. I'm also not the biggest fan of religion. Yeah, I'm not a hateful man in any way, and what you do with your life is none of my business, but the Doctor angrily trying to open the eyes of the soldiers following orders blindly based solely on Chinese whispers-based faith really spoke to me. A very similar concept was explored a bit in 2007 with the Doctor's daughter. Soldiers fighting each other because that's what they know, not because it mattered. There's so much hate in the world right now, and so much of it comes from misinformation, or following what you know, or just believing what you're told. And this episode not only shows some of the immense potential ramifications of that, but takes the whole concept of blind faith and rips it to shreds in one simple sentence. Faith, the magic word that keeps you from having to think for yourself. I thought this at the time when I first watched the episode, and now I've seen it again a year later, I can safely say, free from recency bias, that that is my favourite line of dialogue in anything I've ever seen ever, and I have seen a hell of a lot of movies and TV shows. I don't even have a weird history with faith or religion as such, I just absolutely love how brilliantly, how disparagingly this line brings down those who refuse to think for themselves. Those who would rather allow suffering, cause suffering in some cases, because of some ingrained volatility towards critical thinking. I don't know, I've always loved Moffat's cynicism towards this kind of topic, and I do think growing up, having my most formative years influenced by this man's writing has meant that now as an adult my tastes kind of align fantastically with that kind of penmanship. Anyway, that got kind of deep, and I mean I'm not against getting deep when exploring the themes of an episode, just wait till the next one. I haven't written it yet, but I can see it being a big one. But yeah, that was quite a powerhouse of an episode there, with a lot that spoke to me. On top of that, the idea of a war being created against nothing but technology designed to keep people dying so weapons keep being bought is wonderful. I mean, obviously it's horrible, of course, but such an important story. Something that as a kid I never would have considered. You know, that episode would have opened my eyes to something I'd never realised about the real world, while also still being entertaining for children. It's a hell of a show, really. On top of all of that, I cannot express how much I adore the ending of an AI with a tiny bit of human left inside being able to overthrow an entire artificial intelligence company of weapons and defense in the way it did. Again, very relevant to now with AI being so prominent and quite scary. I feel this was such an important story to tell and told in such a gorgeous way. Doctor Who is primed to tell stories like this. In fact, any story in the world can be told in this show, and they can take the form of anything. Aliens, historical stories, futuristic talking babies, and the beauty and timelessness of Doctor Who comes from the ability to turn even the most alien scenarios into relevant, important human messages. Hell, the episode was a ton of fun and entertaining right until the end of the credits, but what makes Boom for me is just how strong it stands outside of the fun level. I don't know, I'm definitely rambling now. I'll quickly cover a few other things I liked. The visuals were top notch. I especially loved the effects on the Doctor's face when the mine nearly got him. I have a VFX degree, so I really do notice that kind of thing, and I really liked that. I love how Moffat really can't help himself with the sex jokes as well, and this is not a complaint. I enjoy the show being a bit human sometimes, you know? Mundy showing her tattoo to the guy in exchange for a favour. I see you, Moffat, you horny bugger. Also, a veiny cylinder made of human matter that serves as a projector. Yeah, that's literally a fleshlight. Hilarious. I loved Mundy as well, and I'm super excited to see Varada Sethu come back in a full-time role for Season 2. I think she'll be a great addition. The music was top-notch again as well, as always. I really liked Ruby seeing the view from another planet for the first time. It's a really nice moment we got there, and so far we haven't had a ton of that, or at least it's not been weighted as well as it should have been. This really didn't feel surface level, this felt big and grand. There's a ton to love about Boom, but really, as I've said, this shines for me in two major places. Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor, and Stephen Moffat's vitally unsubtle cynicism towards faith, capitalism and AI. I think both as an entertaining episode of an excellent show, and a think piece on relevant issues, Boom is one of the most important episodes of Doctor Who to have ever been made. And with that, I have to say it is one of the best episodes to ever have been made. This shouldn't be a surprise, but I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. Thanks for watching. This is a newish channel I've started as a place to make videos all about Doctor Who, and maybe more things too. I have another channel called Corkben, focused on games like Rayman and The Simpsons Hit and Run, among others, so if you like that kind of thing, or you like my videos, or both, feel free to check them out. I've got a video on 73 yards coming soon, but until then, stay wibbly, stay wobbly, stay timey-wimey, and I'll see you in the next one.